Hey folks, just a little video to show you all the procedures I use to install a Chinese made diesel heater or diesel furnace in our little Snoozy. Now, one of the disadvantages of the little Snoozy is if you're off grid, it's all electric. So there's really no good way to provide heat during that time. Now, a little buddy heater. Now the little buddy works really well. It can run off of the small handheld, like 1 pound propane tanks that screws in over on the side over here. They do provide really good heat, almost too much heat for the Snoozy. But my wife and I had a little scare at a rally a couple of years ago. We were using the buddy heater because the electric was drying out the air, and after we went to bed I turned it down on pilot. Well, after about an hour the carbon monoxide alarm went off. Now I think it was because it was on pilot. I think these buddy heaters are probably safe to use, but my wife is a little more concerned than I am. So what we're trying to do is come up with something that to replace it with. Now what I've done, you folks that know me know that I use this tongue box that I had custom made a few years ago, and I use it to store my 2 6-volt batteries, and also the various equipment, hoses, chocks, and things like that we take along on our trips. So what I want to do is come up with a way to mount one of these diesel heaters in this area, because I'm just a little bit leery about mounting it inside the camper. Plus it'll be less noisy out here. So let's take a look at the heater. Now if you go on YouTube, you can see lots of installs of this baby. It's a 2 kW Vevor diesel heater. They're really small. The 5 and 8 kWs are bigger. This is what it's going to look like in its place, and we'll be showing you that. But the exhaust comes out the side. It'll go through the side of my box and come out to the outside. The intake for the combustion air will just simply lay up beside the batteries. This is the fuel line here, and because lots of people use these without any problem, but because it's so close here between the fuel line and where the heat is, the heat coming out of the box goes through this exhaust pipe. So I wrapped it in a header wrap, and I've also got some aluminized heat shield here I'm going to put around that fuel line and also underneath the heater where it mounts on the camper. This is the fuel tank I'm going to use. It's 5.5 liters, a little small, but it's all I have room in that box for. It's a little involved. You have to add your pipes, and I bought this mount because the mount that comes with it is flat, and I just got this off the internet. It seems like it's going to work really well. It has mounting places on the bottom and also in the back if you need to use that. The fuel line that came with it, I don't have it here right now, but the fuel line that came with it is like a soft green line, and it's recommended that if you do this, that you change to the white line, which is a hard line, and it attaches with these little rubber pieces and clamps. So we've got to install that. We've also got to run the wiring. This is the wiring here for the little controller, which goes inside the cabin, and there's a fuse on the wire going to the batteries, but this is probably going to have to be extended because it's not really long enough for what I'm doing. But soon as we get it mounted up, we'll take another look at it. By the way, I'm not the first one to do this. I want to give credit to my friend Steve, who mounted one in a square box up on front. That's all he has in there is the diesel heater and a tank. But he's used his for a while, seems to work well, so we're going to give it a try. Here I'm getting ready to mount the pump. And a word of advice, if you do this, or anticipate doing it, these are the clips, the little clamps that come with the hose, the kit. Don't use them. Get either a worm drive or one of these type of clamps here. It won't fail you. And on the other end of this, I'm going to mount the little filter. It'll all be mounted on this board, which is going to be both a battery hold down, keep the batteries from moving around, which they never have, and also a mount for this, to where when I put hoses and stuff down here, they'll be up out of the way. Now I'm going to mount it temporarily using this little mount that come with it, but I think I'm going to go back and build a little sound box around it, because these things make a clicking noise, and my friend Steve said that his kind of drives him crazy. The one I have here in the shop, not so much, because it's outside between me and an insulated wall. So we'll see what happens. Okay, this is my completed pump setup. You see, this is coming from the tank up to the pump. The pump, I'm just letting it hang here for now. Check out the noise. It's supposed to be at a little bit of an angle, maybe 35 degrees, probably about like that. So we'll make sure that's like that when we do the final install. That's to keep bubbles out of the line. So we'll see how this goes. I have another one of these diesel heaters. This is an 8 kW mounted in my shop. Works really well. I'm running it off a little transformer because it does have to have 12 volt supply. The fuel tank and pump and all that's mounted outside. Okay, we're doing a test run. Got everything mounted on this end. The aluminum cover will go over all this. You can hear the exhaust. I don't have a muffler on it. May not use it, it's not very loud. And over here's the fuel tank. I've got to finish mounting this battery container and put a piece of wood or something alongside that fuel container so it won't move around. But I think we got it. I think I'm still going to have room for my hoses and such in there. So after we get the ducting run into the trailer, we'll close out. Okay, here you see where it comes out of the box up front, follows the frame rail back. That's also the wire, control wire. It goes up through a small hole in the bottom of the camper, and I had it come up under the bed so I can have the controller near there. The pipe comes out and goes up through the bottom of the camper. That's some aluminum tape I used, and I spray painted it later. There's a 2.75 diameter hole through the bottom of the camper underneath one of the cabinets, and I'll show you from the inside. And I have these stick-on holders that I've got to order some more because I still got a few minor sags here and there, but my goal was to keep it no lower than the frame in case I scraped on something. The ductwork is 60 millimeters. Okay, I mounted the 3-button controller that came with the unit on the bed outside the bedroom area, to where I don't have to look at the LEDs at night, which might keep us awake. I've also mounted a switch to turn it off and on, so I can turn the panel itself off because it would probably glow even when it's not being used. So let's give it a try. We're going to turn the switch on here. And we've got some numbers going on. 27C, these things register either in hertz or in centigrade. They do not register in Fahrenheit. So 27 means it's probably about 80 in here. But that's the temperature it is in here. And then the P13 just simply means we haven't cranked her up. Okay, it's on H3. I'm gonna turn it wide open on H6. And I can hear it starting up. We're gonna go outside, observe a little bit, and then come back and check it again. And I'll show you the heat outlet. Now we're on low. You can hear it good at about 4 foot, but not very loud. I didn't use the muffler that came with it because I noticed it didn't knock it down much. It's just in the way. If you go out about 10 foot, you can barely hear it. And I'm thinking a neighboring camper wouldn't be able to hear it probably at all unless they were extremely quiet. Let's go around this side. Notice I put some heat wrap on the tube in case someone touches it. And so yeah, it's not making a lot of noise there. I think we're going to be very happy with this, as long as it works okay. Of course, time will tell the more we use it. The big challenge was the fuel. And of course, I've got a small 5.5 liter tank there that I can slide up and get out on the ground to fill up. Notice all my hoses and chocks and such in here, my batteries, and then the very back is the heater that you can't even see from here. But I'm also exploring another way to carry fuel. We'll see how that works out. All right, we're gonna go back inside, see what the noise level is there. We're back inside. There's the heat outlet. It's underneath the cabinet. You can barely see it from up here. One of my reasons for doing this is I don't have anything sitting around in the hall in the way. This heat pipe goes in the bottom of the camper and goes underneath the cabinet. So there's no cutting into the cabinet required. And actually there's probably close to 5 inches of unused space underneath these cabinets. Kind of surprises me they hadn't figured out a way to use some of that space, but it's perfect for a 90 to go up through and come out right here. Oh yeah, we're getting hot now. I think high is going to be too much most of the time. We're going to cut it back down now and take a look outside. Not very loud at all. I think we can live with that. It's not any louder than an electric heater and maybe quiet. We're going to wrap up now. As you can see, looks like it's working pretty well. On low, it can not even be heard at 10 foot away very well. And I don't smell any fumes. There might be a slight fume when it first starts up, but after that, nothing. I did spend a lot of time on engineering it to where it would be, all the components would be above the frame rail. It would be very easy to do one of these on a Snoozy 2, or maybe even one of the later little Snoozys that have springs, because they're a little higher off of the ground. You could just put a hole through the plate or box or whatever you're using, and that's the way they're meant to be mounted. And just mount your heater over that hole, and the pipes go through the bottom, and you're done. With me, I mounted it up higher to where I could deal with this clearance problem. So I took a little more engineering. But there's different levels of quality of these heaters, and you really don't ever know what you're getting. You can pay up to $2,000 for one that's made in Europe. I bought the Chinese one and I paid $100 for it. Probably got another $150 in some of the other equipment I bought, the tubes and things like that. But it's pretty cheap, and hopefully going to work well. The Chinese copies are exactly that. They're copies of the Epispatcher and the Webesto heaters. If you wanted to go that route, you could. You can mount these inside the living space because the exhaust and the intake for the combustion comes from outside. They say they're fairly safe. I don't really trust that, so I mounted mine outside to where if there was to be a carbon monoxide leak or something like that, it wouldn't get in the cabin. You know, this side of a complete failure of the casing. The way these work, the fire is inside the unit, and the fan blows air around it, capturing that heat. So there's no intake of combustion air inside the camping space, inside the body. There's no exhaust inside the body. I do recommend that you have a good carbon monoxide alarm if you've got any kind of fuel heater in the camper. We know thousands and thousands of them have propane heat, and we still need to have carbon monoxide alarms for those. So hopefully you've learned something. This is not for everybody, but if you're handy, it's fairly easy to accomplish. Thanks.